We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Today is my day.
Welcome, everyone, to Talk Up Your Biz, Speak Your Way to More Profits. I'm Jean-Noel Bassior, and my co-host is
Susan Levin.
And we have a great show planned for you today. We have people, and our first guests are going to be Mary Semaluka and Alex Vesely, and they are actually doing exactly what this show is about. They are going out there and talking up their biz and what they do. And then later we'll be joined by
Bruce Hodis, who is a business consultant, speaker, and author, and
a psychotherapist.
Was a psychotherapist, and he works with family businesses and companies. And he'll be joining us by phone later on in the show, and we look forward to talking to him as well.
Right. So
what's been happening this week, aside from, the tragic news, the disaster news, which we talked about last week?
Right.
What's some good news?
Good news. Well, something went, I won't say viral, but I got about 56,000 copies of this reprint from the New York Times, a story that was in the New York Times last week. And it was about self-publishing again, another story about self-publishing. And this is not new. I mean, the New York Times, the LA Times have done this story. This one, David Mamet, who was a Pulitzer prize-winning playwright here in Los Angeles. And he decided to self-publish through his agency, which is ICM, which is, of course, one of the major agencies. And that's big news in the publishing world. Now, it's kind of not the first time this has happened. In fact, I have a client who is with Trident, which is an agency that did a huge, humongous deal with Amazon for Penny Marshall's autobiography. And this happened about a year and a half ago. And when that happened and the deal was cut with Amazon as the publisher, this really shook up the publishing world. So now this is a little closer to home. Trident is based in New York, and this is ICM. They're in New York, of course, but they're also right here in LA.
Yeah, and we've been looking at this for a long time, and I know that you've been going through challenges around it because you come from mainstream publishing. So this was like a major wake-up call. How is this publishing industry going to survive? What are they going to do to go with the changes that are happening?
Well, agents are going to become publishers because in a self-published world, what is the role of the agent? You can do everything yourself. You don't need an agent anymore. So that's one thing that's huge about this. But, in reference to our show and what we do, there was a great talk, quote, by a mainstream writer, a comment. And she said that she'd been watching some of her friends who self-published, and she said, it's like they're running their own business. And that's the difference, isn't it?
That is the difference, and this show is about using your expertise to grow your business and income through speaking, and a lot of people don't even recognize what their expertise is, but because the world is changing so quickly and around us, we have to go with the flow, and we knew that this was coming, but we didn't know how it was going to work out. And you don't know this, but today I spoke to a client who found me about 2 years ago, or found us on Speaker Services.
You're doing stuff behind my back again?
Yes, I am. But I'm announcing it on the radio and TV right now, so you're all here. We're so busy, we don't even have time to talk to each other. We're emailing and texting all the time. He's 2 years ago, I put together a package for him. He's in the financial industry, and he didn't go with it. And I wondered what happened to him. And yesterday I got an email from him, and he said to me, I'm ashamed to say, or he said it another way, he said, unabashedly, saying to you that I am so ready for your service. And I really need to get out there and start speaking about what I want to talk about. And in conversation today, he told me that he wants to learn how to monetize his business. He's in the financial industry, as I said. And by the way, he said, I wanted to ask you a question about literary agents. Do you know anything about literary agents?
And he's in the financial industry and he wants to monetize his business?
Well, he's already published 7 books and
Okay.
a couple through Wiley. So
really? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he wanted to know what's going on with that with the business there. And should he go self-publishing or should he go mainstream? So you're going to have a new client.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I told him that he needed to talk to you, and I put a beautiful package together for him. Thank you. And you're part of it to teach him that. Plus, we're going to get him speaker listings and help him write his copy. So that was really, fun. Just very good timing, as you mentioned.
And Wiley is a good publisher.
Right.
They're still buying books that sometimes become bestsellers. Like they had a recent one. In fact, I heard the interview last night on Coast to Coast AM with a guy who has really ripped the lid off hedge funds. And I think the book is called How to Make $100,000 a Minute.
Wow.
And it's really climbing fast on Amazon. And it was Wiley, because I was curious about what did he go mainstream or did he self-publish? And so yeah, Wiley's good.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting fact. And then we always wonder who's listening to us, who's viewing the show. And we've been getting nice comments. But yesterday, again, I had a really nice surprise. It was an email. And a woman, and maybe she's listening, her name is Yael, emailed me from Israel. And she said, oh my goodness, she said, I listened to your show and I loved what I heard. She listened to the Wendy Hammer show when we had Wendy on the show, and that was a hoot. And she also told me, which was really great, how she heard about us, because we want to know how people are learning about us. And she said that on Facebook, there's a group that Rick Frischman runs, Author 101 University, and I'm a member of it. So I post there. That's how she found us. So she wrote me a brief note and then sent me an audio recording and said to me, please listen to this. And then and I really feel like you're the person that I want to work with. Just listening to the show really made her feel that way, which is great. And she wants to bring her business to the States. She wants to talk about family business also, she told me, and about adoption. And now here she's in Israel. Tomorrow I'm going to talk to her on Skype and see what we can put together for her, if that's possible. We haven't done that before with international speakers, but it's possible that we could do it. Or maybe she needs some marketing coaching. Maybe she needs some media coaching. We'll see.
But that's because you're talking about the business here.
Right. So if you're listening to the show and you have some comments, we really want to know that you're listening to it and what value you're getting out of it. Every time I teach a class, or Jean-Noel and I do something together, one of the questions I always ask is, what was the best idea that you got today? Give us an idea. And we go around the circle so we know that you're gleaning some of the information and that it's going into your heart, because we're coming to you from the heart and we're trying to be as authentic as possible. So that was really great. Send me an email, susan@speakerservices.com. Really would appreciate it. Or tell latalklive.com that or tweet there and tell them that too. They would like to hear it. They want to know where their fans are coming from also. It's always wonderful to join the process. So what else are we going to be talking about today?
Well, I was looking at some of these notes that you got together, and I really like Lois Kramer. It's Kramer? Kramer. Okay. Because you've showed me some of her stuff before. Now, it looks to me like in this post, I guess this was from her blog, right? She's talking about, if you're a speaker, how you can go and check out some of these corporate websites, look at the letter from the CEO to find out what problems the company is facing, and then try to write a proposal to them that solves their problem, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Her business is called Book More Business, which I really like. And she's a marketing consultant like I am. And we share a lot of information, among ourselves. And I love her posts. They're very, very helpful.
And I noticed she credits Barbara Garrity for that idea.
Right.
And says it's one of her favorite strategies. But that is just a really great idea. And so a lot of times when we teach together, you talk about the Google alerts, right? When you can pick up the calls for proposals from these corporations. But then, and I would say as a journalist with my background, I always tell people, okay, so you find a call for a speaker, for a proposal, and then kind of do this. Go to their website and, like pretend you're a reporter, try to find out what you can about the company. What are the problems? So this was great.
Exactly. And each week that we've been speaking to you, we always say research before you even make a call or do the email. And that tip is so hot.
It is.
Look at what she said, CFOs or CEOs,
right?
Because those are the people who know the problems that are going on behind the scenes.
Because I would not think of reading their letters, right? That's about like the last thing I'd read, like boring, right?
Right, but they're the people.
But that's right. What are they saying?
And let's look at, I think about in the news today, I was listening where many people who work for the airlines have been furloughed. Right. And they said that things were going to really slow down there. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So how could a speaker or an author help out the companies in the airlines and train some of their people who are being furloughed or the people who are left behind with all the stress?
Right. How to deal, ticket agents, whatever, how to deal with that, right?
Yeah, like Adam Tim, who is on our show, who speaks to the policemen and the firemen.
Yeah, he's a 911 dispatcher, and he knows how to deal with stress.
Right, and he has a book, and that was one of our shows earlier in March, and that's what he talks about, and it has to be a stressful situation, not only for the people who work at the airlines, but how about the travelers?
Right.
I didn't see anything. I didn't look at the news later in the day, but I looked in the morning, and I saw that, and I said, oh, wow, what's going to be going on? And they were saying, well, it starts at LaGuardia, New York, and it's going to trickle down to LA because the flights are going to be late. And then it means it's always stressful going through security and you're standing in lines. And who wants to travel like that? That's no fun.
Adam Tim, who was on one of our earlier shows, is actually, I think, a great example of somebody who you wouldn't think would be out there talking publicly because he's a 911 dispatcher. And, I think that's a story worth just recapping briefly because he got into meditation and stress reduction. And then as a 911 dispatcher, he kind of put it together in a talk and created, a subject that he could go out, a topic he could go out and speak to organizations about. And I know he started with police organizations, right?
Right,
firefighters.
Because that was obvious because he was working, closely with them. And he's one of our speakers. A lot of these people that we speak about who are on the show or we're talking about are on speakerservices.com. And if you'd like to look them up, you could at speakerservices.com or even book them for one of your organizations if you need to. You can call on them directly and read more about them. And there's various ways that you can see the website, speakerservices.com, and see the listings.
But I think also no matter what you do, think of ways like Adam did to think of the expertise that you have. And even if you're working for a corporation, you're a team leader, you might have to get permission for some of this, but just think of how you can package your expertise and go out there and speak.
And talking about expertise, if you are stuck and you don't know what your expertise is, we can help you. The other person I spoke to today is a doctor, and she's out of Ventura, and lovely woman. We had a great conversation a couple weeks ago. And we did a discovery session, and we discovered what she wanted to speak about. And there's going to be more coming. She'll be one of our speakers soon. And she didn't even realize what her expertise was until I started to ask her about her background. And I found out that she was dealing with trauma victims. She's a psychiatrist. So you'll be seeing her on the show later on because many of the people who are on the show are our speakers. But let's also talk about the book beat that's coming up on May 6th. That's our second show that we'll be producing. And Jean-Noel will be the host of that. Who's going to be on that first show on May 6th following this show at 6:30 in the evening Pacific?
On the first show, we're going to have Susan Goodson. And she has an amazing story because she has 3 addict children. And this is not something that she wanted to talk about for a long time. And she finally found the courage to talk about it and write a book about it. And I edited her book, and we're kind of in the second edit now, so we'll be talking more about this process with Susan. But one thing that I found was in the first draft of the book, she was really reluctant to talk about her feelings, so she was kind of holding back. And by the time we got to the second draft, she realized that sharing her feelings with readers was so important, and that changed the whole tone of the book. So that's why I wanted to have her on the first show.
And
That was so important.
It's important to show your vulnerability.
Exactly.
And then people connect with you.
Well, it comes, comes back to my favorite saying about any kind of writing. This was originally said by, I think his name is Jerry Cleaver, the guy who wrote Immediate Fiction. When the hero is having a good time, the reader isn't. So think about that for a minute, okay? Mm-hmm. If your hero is not revealing their feelings, we're not really that interested. It's hard for us to relate.
Yeah, you're not shaking them up.
Right.
They don't want to read more.
Right.
That's true. And that's part of writing, and it's part of speaking. People want to connect with you and know who you are. They want to know how authentic you are. And if they can't connect with you, they're not going to hear your message. And then we have Janine Macklin on, and she's also an author, a second-time author, and I've forgotten the name of her book. Do you remember her? You've been working with her. Do you remember?
I think the title changed, and I'm not sure. But her book, her book. I was relying on you to remember.
I don't remember it. It's on the blog.
Okay. But what the book is about is it is a self-help book, and she's taken a lot of really sound metaphysical principles, and she's put them in everyday language for a broader readership so that they can really understand. You know?
And she's been one of our speakers for a long time. She isn't listed with us now, but a lot of these people come and go, and then they return, or they find us 10 years later, or they're ready, or they're not ready. People go through changes, but we're there. So I want to encourage you, if you need to find out what you're passionate about, or you want some help with your expertise or how to market yourself as a speaker or media coaching, please reach out to me or Jean-Noel. You can reach us through Speaker Services, Susan at speakerservices.com. And we're going to break right now. And when we come back, we'll be talking with Alex Vesely and Mary Simaluka about the documentary film that Alex made called Victor and I, and Mary is the producer of the film. This is LA Talk Live, where we're more than just talk, and you've been listening to Talk Up Your Biz, Speak Your Way to More Profits.
This is Brett Chapin.
And this is Dorothy Dillingham Blue, inviting you to join us every Saturday at noon Pacific Standard Time for our show, La La Land Talk.
Join us as we talk with some of the top talent in LA. Artists' untold stories, your phone calls, and live on-location broadcasts have made La La Land one of the best sources in LA for everything entertainment.
So don't forget to tune in to La La Land Talk.
Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com.
Saturdays at noon Pacific Time. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/LaLaLandTalk, Twitter, twitter.com/LaLaLandTalk. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live.
And we are more than just talk. I think we've got a Shakespeare monologue or two we could do. Yeah?
Jazz hands.
Kickball change.
Good
That's
stuff.
what I'm saying. Mm-hmm.
I'll do some Pippin.
Ooh, yeah. Some miming. I'm in a box. I'm in a box. I'm in a box.
Y'all ready for this? Yeah!
Hi, I'm Jerry Bell of the Daz Band in New Birth.
And I'm Brahima Arsalan.
Inviting you to join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time for Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics, baby. Join us as we play some of the greatest hits of soul and R&B and listen in to interesting discussions with the legends of the music. So don't you forget, join us on the Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics. You'll love it. Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio.
Or watch us and listen directly at latalklive.com, baby.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure.
This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk, baby. We are music.
Journey Sisters is an organization that embodies and captivates women from all walks of life. Our membership includes 44 women that are constantly growing in the areas of personal development and community involvement. Monthly, we offer free leadership classes at McCade's Restaurant. Journey aims to inform women in the areas of heart disease and HIV and AIDS. Experience the journey now by logging into www.journeymosaicinc.com. Toll free 888-906-5519. Journey with no excuses.
Today is my day.
Welcome back. You're listening to LA Talk Live, and we are.
We're more than just something.
We're more than just talk, and you're listening to Speak Your Way to More Business, Talk Your Way to More Business. And I'm getting all mixed up today because I'm so excited about the guests that we have on the show. Today we have Alex Vesley with us, and we have Mary Simolicka with us, and they become great friends of ours of Speaker Services. And Alex is the grandson of Viktor Frankl, and he has written, not written, but he's produced and he's directed and put together the documentary Victor and I. And if you're not familiar with Viktor Frankl, this is his book. It's called Man's Search for Meaning, and he's touched many, many people throughout the years. So as we get started, let's find out what your relationship was with your grandfather and why you put this film together. One moment, I want to introduce Mary, because Mary's the producer of the film, and other films that they're doing. They have Noetic Films, so we're very happy to have you both with us today.
Thank you, Jean-Noel. We're really honored to be here.
Good. We're happy to have you. And you traveled up from down south.
Yes, all the way from Orange County.
Well, a lot of people don't want to drive it, so we appreciate you coming into the studio. So, Alex, tell us about your relationship with your grandfather and why you wanted to do this documentary.
Well, this goes way back because I grew up with my grandfather. That's not something I chose to do. I was born into the family, so I was the grandson. But I realized when I was in my teens, I realized that a lot of people were really influenced by his work, and even people who had never met him. For me, he was just grandpa. He was just a regular
Alex,
grandpa.
let's say, he was a Holocaust survivor, and he was a psychiatrist. Now, was he a psychiatrist before he went into the camps?
He was a medical doctor before he went in
doctor.
there. He studied with Sigmund Freud. His school is actually called the Third Viennese School of Psychotherapy, after psychoanalysis being the first one that Sigmund Freud who started everything, and then Alfred Adler, who was actually a disciple of Freud, and so he came up with his own theory, saying it's neither just pleasure that we're seeking, as Freud stated, nor is it just power, as Adler stated, but he said it's really meaning. And the healthy human being just resorts to either power or pleasure if he can't find a meaningful thing to do with their lives.
So he was trying to make sense, though, right? When he wrote this classic, Man's Search for Meaning, he was trying to make sense of this horrendous experience, right? Because he was in the camps for 3 years, wasn't he?
That's right. He was in several camps.
In the
actually.
death camps. We're
Right,
talking about the
right.
concentration camps here now in Germany, or was
That's
it Poland or Germany?
It was in both.
Yeah, right.
He was in 3 different camps.
Yeah, it was in
Right.
Auschwitz, and then went on to several camps until he was liberated.
Right.
At the end of the war, and he made it, although he lost all of his family. So
Right.
he said the more depressing and difficult time in his life was when he came back
Right.
and had found out there was nobody waiting for him.
And so then he wrote a book that amazed the world because having been through this horrendous experience, how did he make sense of this? What did he say?
Well, he actually came up with the theory that meaning is the central motivator in people's lives, or should be, before the war, before those experiences. But when he was in the camps, he could sort of test his theories and see if he was really right about that. Sigmund Freud had said that if people are taken away everything they need to live from, they will all become the same. They will all act in the same way. They will all be reduced to their basic needs. And he said he doesn't think so. That's not going to happen. On the contrary, when things get really tough, you'll see what character, either the best or the worst comes out, depending on who you are and who you decide to be.
So he saw these heroic things happen in the camps.
And he saw that happening in the camp. And he also saw that those people were most likely to survive who had something to look forward to, some meaning in their life, something that they felt they would still need to do with their lives, something they were good for, in order to speak like that. And so he saw that was actually happening, and he himself also witnessed it with himself. And that can be something that you do in your life, your job or whatever, if you're an artist, the works you want to create, or it can be another person. And so that was his personal story. And so when he came back, he wrote the book that he had to throw away. He had all these theories in his mind before he went to the concentration camp, but he had to throw the script away when he entered Auschwitz. And so he reconstructed it afterwards. And that was the book that actually had all his theories in there. And then he wrote this other little book, which is now called Man's Search for Meaning, which was a more personal book about the stories and interweaving those ideas into the stories, into the Holocaust experience that he had gone through. And a lot of people could relate to that, and a lot of people could translate that to their own suffering. And I think that's what makes this book so special, that it's not just a bestseller, it's a long seller. I mean, it's been #1 for
It's classic. I
50
looked it up
years
on
now.
Amazon today, and it's still just, on all the lists,
Yes.
So you grew up with this man.
I did.
And then you decided you are a psychotherapist.
I'm a psychotherapist.
And
maybe,
a filmmaker.
Maybe it had something to do with it, but I had my own reasons as well to go into that. Yes.
And then you made a film.
And he's
about,
a musician too.
That's right. You studied,
Yeah, I just couldn't decide what I wanted to do, so I did it all.
When you grew up.
But but the film you made, it seems like that is the film where people can really get to know your grandfather, right? And then you met up with Mary, who really helps you get this out in the world, right?
That was a lucky coincidence, yes, because otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here. And because I'm just a filmmaker, I'm just a kid with a camera, and I thought, a lot of people knew my grandfather, and I just wanted to capture those experiences and put them in a form that I could share it with other people, so that it would be more than just me talking.
Right.
You went around the world and found the people that your grandfather touched.
That's
right. And you were the filmmaker, you were the video maker, you were everything, the lighting. And it took you, 3 years?
It took me about 3 years.
Okay, so fast forward, you meet Mary, and Mary is very interested in what you're doing, and she begins to produce this, and she begins to look at ways that she can get out there and speak about it also. So tell us about that.
Well, I owned a recording company business for 35 years, and I've been a serial entrepreneur. Businesses become second nature to me. I've been running businesses since I was 10 years old. And Alex and I were fortunate enough to meet at one of my client groups, the Erickson Foundation for Psychotherapy. And I thought he was some kid running around with a camera. As it turns out, he was that, but he was a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And when I found out 5 days into the conference who he was, and I had my own personal connections with Dr. Frankel's work 3 or 4 times in the 30 years before I met Alex. I was so impressed with the work, and he said he was there filming interviews of famous psychiatrists that came to this conference from all over the world in order to make an archive project. And I said, oh no, this has to be much bigger than that. So we decided to work together. We formed a company right away, and well, not right away, maybe 2 years later, we formed a company called Noetic Films for the sole purpose of producing this film and getting it out to the world. And it's my first foray into the film.
So this
business.
got you into filmmaking.
Yeah, this got me into filmmaking. And the film is called Victor and I, an Alexander Vesely film. And we won the Top Documentary Award in 2010, which is tremendous for our first documentary. But as I started to research the film business, I began to take classes, joined all kinds of film mentorship programs, and learned how to do it. And everybody said to me, you'll never make your money back. You cannot make any money on this. Documentaries don't sell. Well, I took that on as a challenge.
You always do.
I always do. I mean, I don't believe in all the naysayers. I think if you've got a good idea and you've got a good brain and you've got a good partner, which I have the best partner in the whole world.
Yes, you do.
That's my line. That's my line.
You can create a product that other people want. You just have to be a little bit more creative. So I came up with something which Jean-Noel has now termed for me today. I've been looking for the name, the Semaluca process, to raise adequate funds and get this documentary around the world, because we were interested in just making a movie that sold a couple of 3,000 copies of a DVD. No, we want to change lives with the film. And we now have a radio show that has over 100,000 people listening each week. And we sold a lot of films, and we're doing speaking engagements around the world. The last one Alex and I did was in Toronto, Canada. We've been to Madrid, to Valencia, Spain. We've been all over, and we use the stage and create events to get the word about the film out.
And they were paying you also.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I figured out how to monetize it. And we've made our money back and then some since we started.
And selling the documentary as well.
So everybody needs a Mary in their life.
Everybody's after me now, and Alex keeps saying, "Oh no, she's my Mary."
I was going to say there's something about Mary. I love that film. Yeah, you know, when I met Mary, she was just embarking on this, and we talked about how she could monetize the business. And I kept saying, you can speak. And she said, no, I don't think I can speak.
Right.
And then the next time I spoke to her, after she had taken a class that we offered, she said, by the way, I'm being offered, I don't even remember how much it was.
$5,000 was the first one.
Right.
And then
like, what?
It went to $12,500 for the next one. And
Right.
so, yeah, we figured out. But what I did is create not just me speaking, but Alex comes on board. We show the film. We do a meet and greet. We created event theatricals. Not theatrical events, because I figured out quickly you couldn't afford to get in these big theaters. So we had to do something else.
That's right.
So we find a champion in a particular university or a church or a synagogue, and we get them to sponsor us to come there and then create these events, and it's worked out quite nicely.
How do you reach out to people? Do they find you, or do you?
No, I find them.
You find them?
I believe in creating your own business. I'm a champion marketer, as Susan knows. And so I will find people who've been interested in Dr. Frankel's work or who write to us on our website, and then I contact them and see who they know who might know somebody. Believing in the 6 degrees of separation, which I'm sure as a business audience, your audience is quite familiar with. I always try to find that one person who can then get me to the next step,
That's the way to go. But tell us both, what's the next steps? What are you working on now? What do you have in the future?
Well, I can speak from as the creative person in
yes,
this,
Mr.
in this
Creative
team.
Alex.
I admire you with this business knowledge that you have, because I had none. I'm getting it slowly.
That's
and
okay. We
get a lot
play
today.
Our own role, you know.
Right.
I have to tell one little funny story about that. We'll leave a business meeting, and Alex, when we get in the car, the first thing he says to me is, "Did we win?"
Right.
And you always know, right?
I always know before I get there whether we're going to.
Yeah, it's
So what are you
sounds like
working on
English,
now,
but
Alex?
I'm working on. Well, I've actually had started this a while ago, but then I interrupted the work for finishing Victor and I, and it's another documentary about another pioneer. in the field of psychotherapy, and his name is Milton H. Erickson, who is an American pioneer in hypnosis
Right.
and in brief therapy, which is sort of similar as to what Viktor Frankl
We didn't
did
even
in
say
his
what
life.
kind of therapy it was. It's called logotherapy, right?
Logotherapy is my
Right.
grandfather's
Right.
theories, and Milton H. Erickson, he was Mr. Hypnosis.
Right.
Yet he was also a very interesting character who was very humble and who was not into business, as my grandfather wasn't either. So there were these giants here who did not market themselves to an extent that I think it's even hurting them, because other people would come and take their work and make their own thing out of it and water it down.
We
and
need the
it will be
Marys of the
something else.
world.
Yeah, they had a Mary.
Well, your angel, you two found each other. Your angels
Yeah.
put you guys together.
Well,
You're
I'm just-
both amazing.
I'm just really lucky, and I'm very aware of that every day. But because you can do getting a film out there, that's really one side as the business side, and then there's the artistic side, and both are equally important, because the best movie will not serve its purpose if it's in some drawer.
We only have about 30 seconds, but
Okay.
I'm curious, Alex, what is the thing you remember most that your grandfather said to you? Is there something?
Oh, that's a question. There's so much, because we're close as a family, but I can tell you that there is nothing that he said to me that this is the recipe, this is how you do it. And I think he was much more influential on me in what he did, and that he went his own way. He was not discouraged by disappointments or if he was not successful, and he was not tempted to do anything because of the success he eventually had. He just made his own decisions from a very original, authentic.
He was authentic, wasn't he?
He was authentic, yeah. And he said, do your own thing. I think that's the message that he gave, not only to me, but to his patients, to everybody.
world.
To the world.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So where can we find out more about you two?
Well, the easiest way is to go to our website, which is victorandimovie.com. That's VIKTOR and imovie.com. Our contact page is open there, and we have a blog that we post to every week. We also are on Talk Sense Radio every week on TogiNet Live.
On Fridays.
At 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific.
Right. Well, we appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And thank you. And we'll be talking more.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
And people go and look at Victor and I, and you can order the documentary right from the website. It's really
It's
well
a wonderful
done.
film. Yeah, I've seen it. It's really great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So don't go anywhere, because we have Bruce Hodis coming up. He will be on the studio line. Former psychotherapist, but now he is helping people with their businesses. And one of the things that he specializes in, if you're involved in a family-owned business, you're going to want to hear what he has to say. So this is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk.
I'm watching it grow. If you believe, we will make it together. Planting a seed in my soul, our beauty will show. I'm taking a stand and making a difference.
Hands can do incredible things. This is the sound of 326 hands playing Mozart. This is the sound of 10,942 hands showing appreciation. 64 hands building a house for the homeless. 142 hands swimming a triathlon. 18 hands winning the big game. And this is the sound of 2 hands helping to save a life. It's called hands-only CPR, and it's recommended by the American Heart Association. If an adult suddenly collapses, call 911, then push hard and fast in the center of their chest until help arrives. It's incredibly easy and effective. Hands can do incredible things, but nothing compares to using them to help save a life. Find out more about this latest method of CPR at handsonlycpr.org. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Today is my day, a brand new beginning.
Welcome back to Talk Up Your Biz, Speak Your Way to More Profits. I'm Jean-Noel Bassior, and my co-host here is
Susan Levin.
And we are going to be joined on the studio line by Bruce Hodis. And Bruce, are you there?
Yes, I am.
We can't hear him.
You're going to get louder, I think, in a minute.
Good.
Yeah,
there
that's
you
perfect.
are. Hi,
Yeah.
Bruce. Yeah.
And Bruce,
Hi.
you're a
to
former
meet you.
psycho.
Yeah, that's it.
And you now help people create really successful businesses, right?
Yes.
And how do you do that? And family businesses too. That you specialize in family businesses and show people how to get through that experience?
Yeah, I think that the big contribution that I make to family businesses is make sure that they know that the rules that govern families successfully and the rules that govern businesses are very different. And that many times people in family businesses collapse the rules, and it's sort of like trying to play baseball with soccer rules. Fundamentally does not work.
Well, I love one of your tips here, which is actively encourage family members not to work in the company. So why is that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of the basic differences between a family and a business. Families, you don't have any choice. You're sort of born into one. You have the parents you got the sisters you got, and brothers, and you have your entire lifetime to work that out with many therapists. In business, you get to choose where you work. And so you're a choice. So if family members want to work together, that's not part of the family system. They can choose to work together, and it actually could be a powerful relationship and a powerful thing to do, but it's got to be a choice.
So you have to set up boundaries, I imagine, because I see it happening all the time where people are crossing boundaries when they're family members and they're also working together. It gets really, really tricky.
Well, in the companies that we coach, many times a family member can't work in the company until they're 35.
Oh, really?
And yeah, absolutely. And they've had to go outside and be successful. They've had to go outside and work in other organizations. Where
So
I
that's
see
something
it
you encourage
highly
them?
problematic is when you've grown up inside the company, you're being paid way beyond what your contribution is. And if you wanted to leave the company, you really couldn't command that kind of salary or position because you just don't have the stature or knowledge for it. And then you have some real problems.
Bruce, I was just curious about that rule of 35. Was that something that you tell your coaching clients to do that, or is that?
Absolutely.
I see.
No, 30 is not 30 to 35. You want and a lot of times people will grow up in the company and they'll work during summers and doing interns, but you want them to leave college and really go out and have some real standalone experience.
Yeah.
And then to bring something back to the company, something viable,
Right.
something vibrant, and bring back some knowledge and experience.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Bruce, I know this is Susan, and I know that your services, CMI, has services called Breakthrough Strategic Business Planning. Why should a company have an annual planning process?
I see planning like going to the health club. If you want a quality company that grows in the long haul, then you have to have a forum in which you can work out the critical issues and actually design the infrastructure that you're going to need to grow. Also, you need a process in which the key employees of the company can really understand the direction of the company so that they can support the direction of the company. And an annual planning process, I actually call them now, as we're in such time that they're an annual guessing process, but have that annual process with touch points throughout the entire year allows the company to deal with the issues that are confronting it. And there are a lot of issues confronting companies.
Absolutely. So how can you guarantee or that people are implementing the coaching practices or best practices that you're offering to them?
Well, one of the things that we're now doing, and we're doing execution management, in which we are making sure that there are progress meetings that are happening between all. I know it sounds worse than it is. But
really? Yeah. You shoot two people?
The entire company into execution management.
Company.
Have you thought of changing that name?
Well, we definitely. There's execution like your head cut off, and there's execution like implementation and making something happen. And that's sort of what we're moving forward.
So,
go ahead. As a psychotherapist, how are you bringing that experience that you have to these corporations and these clients of yours? Is there something that you find? Is there an area that they need help in, particularly, especially?
That's a great question.
It is.
I bring listening to it, and I see that a lot of times executives can let their past influence what they're doing, and they let their past get in the way of their commitment to growing their companies.
That's really interesting. That's really so, because people don't think of that angle when it comes to business, do they?
Right, and so I really let them get present to what they're committed to, and then also what's in their past that's going to get in their way to being powerful. And also, a lot of times, the other thing that I really work with executives around is, in a business, you got to perform together. That's distinct from liking people. That's distinct from getting along with people. You've got to have a performance-oriented and a relationship in which you're willing to perform with people, much like actors have in dance or people have in theater or musicians have with each other. It's a performance-oriented relationship and not a social, particularly social. You definitely can get to like people, and some people you'll get to have friends, and some people you won't like, but it's performance-oriented, so that people on the leadership team have got to be oriented around that it's a performance that we're doing together, and we're related around performance.
That's really good. So I know you've written a book, and it should be up on the monitor for everybody to see. If it's not, it will be in a moment. Yes, Nez is saying yes, and so is your picture, so we can see you as well, because you couldn't be in the studio. You're in Chicago, and we're here in LA. Tell us about your book.
Well, the book is really, I've been working with organizations over the past 30 years and have a lot of experience in having companies generate and create a performance-oriented culture. So the book is my best ideas and the best things that I've seen that companies can do to move themselves towards a performance-oriented culture, and a culture in which customers love it, employees like working there, stakeholders.
Line here, battling the business tsunami. by developing
Yes.
performance-oriented cultures.
Yeah, and I might add, it's the best, most unrecognized business book ever
Most
written.
unrecognized. Okay. And
I've
so
never
are
heard
you,
that before.
have you been, when you go out to speak, are people aware that you have your book and buying it once you get out there?
Book as really represent myself as a expert who
Yes.
speaks.
Exactly.
I don't consider myself a professional speaker, though I speak quite a bit. But I love what I do is I love coaching companies, and I love to engage CEO and business executives in how they can impact and improve their organization, and I really love that. And so the speaking forum in the book gives me a pathway to that.
Exactly, and you're a perfect example of a client that we love working with, because we don't work with professional speakers, we work with professional people who want to grow their business and income through speaking. And that's how you came to us, through another client, speaker client, who we've interviewed as well, Devin Hughes. And he recommended that you get in touch with us. And we had many conversations before we got you started. Let's let people know about how they can connect with you and where your website is. Should they want consulting with you, or they need a speaker or a workshop leader?
Yeah. Well, certainly we're on your website, Susan, and our website is www.cmiteamwork.com, and really it's all there. How to contact me, and our phones are 708-383-7970, and my email is bhodes@cmiteamwork.com.
Okay, we've been saying your name wrong. It's Hodes. I've been saying Hodis.
Yeah, me too.
Excuse us. Okay.
Bruce, I wanted to go back for a minute to this performance-oriented culture idea, because it sounds like that's kind of the thing that makes you unique, right?
Yeah.
That's what you focus on.
Yeah.
But can you explain that a little bit? Like if you go into a company and they don't have a performance-oriented culture, I mean, how do you bring them to that? What do you do for them?
Well, the first thing we do is really listen to people, and then we work with the leadership team to hammer out a direction that they need to go in, that they want to go in, and then look at the barriers and issues are to going there, and then help them work through those issues. The other thing that we really bring them to is that if they're going to be successful, it's a group event. It's not an individual event. It's going to take a group, an executive leadership group, to grow that company. And they're really going to have to align and perform with each other, and we help them work through whatever issues need to be worked through. And if there are some members of the team that are not willing to play that game or not able to play that game, then we help ownership and the CEO deal with those issues.
So it sounds like you're really going in there and finding out what is really happening, right, with the relationships between the teams and the management. Is that sort of what you're doing in a way?
And also, if there's marketing issues that need to be dealt with, if there's production issues that need to be dealt with, then we deal with that. So recently, I actually was involved in a company in LA, and there was son and father issues that needed to be sorted out, and now the father is leaving the company, allowing the son, the son to really be the CEO, where the father was getting in the way of that. And there were significant sales issues that they did not have sales material and a sales agenda, and helping them design that and sort that out.
So we know that you speak about other things than just family business. There are several other subjects that you speak about. What are they?
Well, the performance cultures was probably one. Yeah. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you're sort of unique about your business consulting?
The family business aspect we've talked about. Performance-oriented we've talked about. I think we've covered it.
Yeah, and I think that, even though you're in Chicago, you obviously have clients all over the country, right?
Yes, and I've done a number of international
Uh-huh.
I have a client in Ecuador.
Really?
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
because that's a really interesting specialty, because I know there's businesses all around the country that are family businesses, small businesses, family oriented, and it sounds like they could really use your services.
Yeah.
And
Well, they have vibrant family business, like in Ecuador. They have a large number of family companies.
And I want to thank you, Bruce, for posting this article and several others in Speaker Services LinkedIn group. And I picked up on that, and that's helping you to be more proactive, and it's helping me to get your message out further. So go, social media. And your gal Alona does a great job for you as well, and we appreciate that. It makes our job so much easier for you.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you, Susan. You contribute a lot, you help us a lot, and you're very, very generous in what you know and sharing that. So we've grown a lot from our relationship, and I appreciate it.
She's very patient, isn't she, Bruce? Wouldn't you say Susan's a patient person?
Yes.
Thank you. Except when it comes to technology and I get frustrated and I can't find certain things, then I start to cry.
Like your headset.
Yeah, like the headset, or can't find the broadcast button on Google Hangouts. Then I get really frustrated and really get upset about it.
Right. So if you got a family business out there, or if you really need to know any about performance cultures and smoothing that out in your business, then Bruce Hodes is the person to contact.
And he's at CMI. That's the name of his company, and you can find him on Speaker Services also. And contact him directly. You don't have to go through me or Jean-Noel. You can call him and read his speaker copy that we help put together for him and find out more about him.
And we should probably mention that. Thank you so much, Bruce. We should probably mention that since we have an extra minute here, about Speaker Services, that when you're listed at speakerservices.com, it's not an agency. You are just up there, and the meeting planners who want you to speak can call you directly. So it's unique that way.
That was one of the questions that I was asked today. What's the difference between a bureau and what you do? And like Bruce said, we helped him a lot. There's so much more that we give than just saying, here, we'll just throw you out there, and see if it sticks. We help put the copy together. We teach them how to market themselves as speakers, and we also help with media and social media, which we've been talking about all throughout here. So, Bruce, thank you for being on this call this evening.
Yeah, thank you both. It was very fun.
Thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
And thanks to our other guests, Mary Simaluka and Alex Vesely. And next week, we've got two more fascinating guests for you. The first one is going to be Patty Malone, and she is a former TV anchor. And she has taken that expertise and become a communication trainer. And she's going to tell us how to avoid major communications and mistakes in the workplace. And who else, Susan?
And we're going to have Ashley Arnn, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist, young woman, and author of Passionate Texting, where she offers easy strategies to find love and make it last while maintaining a successful, flourishing career. And they'll both be in the studio. Patty will be bringing us some new information. She just emailed me and said she's really found her focus now, and she's doing a great job.
Well, Passionate Texting seems to say it all, right?
Yeah. So
what more is there?
We'll be saying goodnight to you now. You've been listening to Talk Up Your Biz, Speak Your Way to More Profits. And we're on LA Talk Live, where we're more than just talk. Find us at 5 p.m. Pacific every Monday evening. And then on May 6th, the Book Beat follows at 6:30 with Jean-Noel as your hostess and me and Susan Levin producing. Thank you all for listening, and send us your comments. We want to hear from you.
I'm watching it grow. If you believe, we will make it together. Planting a seed in my soul, our beauty will show. I'm taking a stand.
know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Gonna grow some love too.